Thank you for taking time to view this video. What I'm going to be talking about is a workflow proposal based on forms. When I went on the InDrive, oh man, did I find some forms. I lost count at the number 32, but I think everyone knows there's a bunch of forms out there, from truck forms, tool inventory, rope inspection, SCBA inspection, turnout gear washing forms, various training forms, hose testing, EMS related forms for inventory, return to service, equipment logs, sign-in sheets, and my favorite, injury reporting forms. And there's even some forms out there that we use one time and throw away. Maybe some HR related forms, not to throw away, but HR related forms such as withdrawal changes and especially compliance. Think about those forms that we need filled out to ensure that every employee has read a particular document. What if we can automate that so that everyone gets an email with a link? They click on the link, they read the email, they click at the bottom and sign it with their smartphone. And that all that data is consolidated to a single form in a report style like a Microsoft Excel, with the actual signature being in a field. It's that kind of enhancement of workflow relative to the forms that brings value. So we're talking about four major improvements with automation. One, it puts all the forms in the hand of each employee, so everyone has access to all the forms that they're allowed to see on a smartphone or tablet. And as I said, we're going to work on that workflow so that after it leaves the smartphone, it goes to the cloud to a queue for a respective officer for that form, so that officer or whoever's supporting that form can view the information and act on it or archive it. All the forms will be trackable to ensure we don't lose the data. It'll all be in the cloud, and the administrator will either will have that access to delete it, but more often we'll just archive it. And the last thing, there's some value to be had here when it comes to looking at the data in a class of forms. So if we're looking at trucks, we can look at a particular trend of Rescue 33's mileage log, how much oil it's taking, how much the extrication power unit, how much oil has been logged in the last year. When it comes to EMS, how many times are we replacing certain types of materials at Station 32? Looking at individual trends, all holistically, you can find those outliers of dips and bubbles and be able to drill into them based on those, on that automated collection of data. It sounds all good, but what's it going to cost me? So the apps are supported on Apple and Android phones, and they're free. So there's no cost there. Where the majority of the cost, it's using technology that honestly I did not develop. I'm using a cloud server from FastForms, and they have a JSON server that provides security. The front end, which we'll see a demo of here in a minute, and also storage, putting that storage in the cloud, not on our servers, until we want it to be. The last bullet, administration and support. This tool, I estimate, will take about 6 hours per month, or $1,400 per year to support. Now, much of this is probably going to go away as we get rid of old forms, but this is if we had no forms and no process at all today, and we were to start up from anew. This would be the cost. I'm certain that the amount of time spent in working on forms is probably this or greater currently. Now, there's some obvious savings, but I just wanted to point out a few things here. The first one is you don't have to wait in line to enter data. So it's Station 33 on maintenance night, we have to be very calculated to ensure that everyone has time to put in their data into a form, whether it's a truck form, whether it's an SCBA form, whether it's any repair tickets, whether it's tools, whether it's the EMS forms you have to fill out. I'm just scratching the surface. But you can imagine at Station 33, there's only one computer. And usually about maintenance, that's the first week of the month. And that's when an officer has to ensure all of the time cards are done. So you have all of that work being done, yes, on one computer. So there could be not always, but there could be a small slag in time where you have multiple firefighters waiting for a computer and costing you money. The second bullet talks about accuracy. Many of the forms right now are written on a piece of paper, sometimes on a blank piece of paper, and then given to someone else where they enter into the form. So by reducing that middleman, you're ensuring that the data entry is correct. You're also ensuring that you know exactly who filled out the form. And just by doing that, you'll increase your accuracy. And the last bullet, there's no paper. This is all electronic. It can be paper if you so choose, but only if you choose. It's not mandatory. I like what Bill Gates said here. He said the first rule of technology used in a business. He's talking about automation. If you apply automation to efficient operation, it'll magnify that efficiency. But the second rule is that automation applied to an inefficient process will magnify that inefficiency. So it's something to keep in mind when doing any kind of technology upgrades, and I think about this often. So let's go ahead and end this PowerPoint and move right into the demo. All right, so let's take a look at it. Now the branding for the Fast Forms or Fast Field app is still in place, so we can take a look at that later. So what you would do is you click on that. We'll go ahead and log in. You can work offline, but we're going to work in sync with the server. What it's going to bring is a list of forms. And currently I just have a few I built. But let's say, we just want to look at EMS forms. Let's say we have those 32 forms up there. You can actually type in EMS, and it will filter. So it's a maybe BAFD. You can filter. So that helps. So let's do an EMS form. When you click on it, it's going to ask you, want to start a new form? Sure, why not? Put in a date. Pick any date you want, but it's going to default to today. Apparatus. This is a global list. You can put anything you want here. I just made something up. And then it goes basically by the form format. So this is the front compartment. Now we're doing right now the blue trauma bag. So you can say, yeah, no, oh, we're missing those, or yeah, we have that, or yes, we have that, yes, we have that, but no, we have that, and you can put whatever you want. I'm just going to hit yes here just to ensure that this checklist is done. I can put in features in there that ensures that you answer every single question before you submit. I can put rules like that. I can have rules that if you hit no on something else, it'll automatically kick off an alert. Lots of things. The critical thing here with this form is workflow management. So here, you're going to acknowledge that you actually did it. It's going to say thank you, and that's a requirement. And then, okay, and you can do a signature. And so, obviously, you can put anything here. I'm horrible with my finger, but that's essentially it. After you submit a form, Just jump in that submitted. You can actually see the checklist that you just did in a PDF format. So it's basically viewable of everything you did. Viewable only, you can't change it. And if it's a particular form that you don't want to go on the server, you want it, well, every form will be on the server, but if there's something that has an urgent need, so maybe you want to email it, you just hit the email button at the top. You can actually text it too, but it'll bring up the PDF document embedded in an email from whomever you're sending it. So I can send it to myself. That form is sent. There's another form I'd like to show you, and it kind of shows all the things you can do. I call it a sample. It's the one that came with it. Oh, I got the email. You could take photos, maybe on something you want to fix. You may want to show something, so you take a picture of a broken tool, such as a calculator. You can actually draw on it, right? And put a text description if you'd like. You can actually flip it around if you're not happy with the orientation. All kinds of things. You can also take multiple photos. So you can, if you have multiple photos you want to take, you can use the Add New button. You go through video and audio. Section. Take something, like that, and upload it to the form. Do calculations, put switches, different kinds of GPS locations if it's critical where we know it's at, and of course signature capture, which we did. We'll go ahead and submit that form. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the server to look at what those forms look like on a PC. Look at the administrative portal. So the day-to-day users won't need this. It's just the officers in charge of supporting a form or workflow, or ones that are supporting the forms itself. So from here, you can see some kind of the activity, what kind of forms were submitted. You can also see the latest forms submitted. What I want to show you here is the open items. So this is a dispatch area. I only have one dispatch open, and that's anytime an EMS supplies checklist is done, it sends an email to myself. And so we can actually see that. And this is what the email looks like. This specifically is meant for the application, so an iPhone app or a Android app, so that it can open up in your phone. If you wanted to view those submitted, you'd have to run data collection so we can get data. When you open that in the application, it's going to show you that particular form. Now, let's say you want to look at all of your queue. Maybe you're the EMS officer. You want to see everything for this trauma blue, and you want to only see it for anything greater than the 1st of July. You can run that filter. It'll pull that data from the cloud, from all the forms submitted, give you that data, and you can actually look at that in this form, and then you can export that data in Excel. So you can pull down that month's checklist from all the stations, pop that open, and it'll basically dump that data into an Excel spreadsheet. So all those forms can be in one spreadsheet. You can easily find out who did their forms that month, who has an adult BP cuff, who doesn't, who has a pen light, who doesn't. I'm being very simplistic, but you get the point. Another thing you can do is change the dispatch and change the forms. Anyone who has administrative functions can do all of that. You also can look at all your forms based on its library, edit them, change them, create new forms. It's with maybe an hour or two of training, I could pretty much show anybody how to make a form and build the workflow engine behind it. And the last thing we'll look at is looking at a summary view of all the forms, so you can look at just the EMS forms. It's, it could show you in a graphical and numerical way. You can also view the individual submissions for that particular type of form. If you click on that, it's going to bring up a PDF document. It's going to is what it's going to look like, and it's going to have that thing, the signature that you were looking for, and all that. So that concludes the demo of this application and the workflow engine. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I'll do my best to get those questions answered as soon as possible. Thanks again.